This is the Impulsive Thinker Podcast, a show for high-achieving ADHD entrepreneurs. Together, we will inform and educate you about how to improve your self-awareness while developing systems, routines, and habits for conquering the entrepreneurial world. Here is your host, Andre Brisson.
This week, we're talking with Mark Wright, who's a four-time Emmy award-winning journalist, which he had 35 years of experience in radio and television. And we had a discussion about how does someone know if they have ADHD and why is it missed with adults and whatnot. And a lot of the conversation had to be with the fact is a lot of times ADHD is missed for two reasons. The main one is adult ADHD is relatively new. And let's say in the last 10 years that they've started to observe that adults have ADHD. It's still around. It's just not as pronounced as if it was in childhood. And the fact that you're successful is also blinded to the fact that you might have ADHD because ADHD is diagnosed when you're in dire straits or when there's problems. So when you're successful and things are going well, ADHD is overlooked and misunderstood. And the other thing, too, is a lot of times, like in Mark's case, the journalist, the media environment just suited his ADHD for the majority of the time and supported his ADHD the majority of the time. Just it came at an emotional cost and toll with time and energy. So, I guess he started the process. He's getting his referral to seek medical opinion about him having ADHD. And in the end of the conversation, it was more about what do I do in the meantime? And this is where I want to take some time is what do we do in the meantime while you're waiting for the diagnosis? Or even prior, you're trying to figure out what to do or even decide if you're going to get a diagnosis or chase a diagnosis. And I wrote some things down here I think is very important. So with the ADHD Simplified model that I created, ADHD to me is an executive functioning deficit. Our brain is just not wired to have high functioning executive functions, working memory, planning, organization. And we talked about that, about internal organization of our thoughts is very challenging. Sometimes we have to read out loud or to write things out so that our brain can see it or hear it differently. It comes out of our head to come back in so it can see it differently. And it's also an issue with time blindness. We're blind to time. It's farsightedness of or nearsightedness of time. Forget, either way, we can only see time close, not far. You know, for me, ending 2 weeks plus 1 day, might as well say it's 100 years from now. I just can't fathom it. I can't picture it. I just, no problem. I'll do it then. That's why my schedule usually gets problematic. Getting lost in time, it's also anticipating properly how long something will take or thinking we have enough time and it comes to the point, it's like, oh crap, we got no time. So time blindness. Now, the final part of the model for ADHD Simplified model is that it's a challenge of inhibition. Our brain has a challenge of inhibition. It has a hard time inhibiting, slowing down our impulsive reactions, our emotions, our distractibility. And that's a reality. It's just the way our brain is wired. So looking at that ADHD Simplified model, you manage those three things and your symptoms will be mitigated. Concentrating on the symptoms only, I don't think works effectively. We're just trying to put lipstick on the pig, or we're trying to deal with the negative aspects that everyone sees as negative. But if you manage those three things, the executive dysfunction, the time blindness, and the brain's inability to inhibit, that'll take care of the symptoms itself. Having that said, be aware of the stereotypical DSM symptoms. And this is what I recommend Mark should do, or you, the listener who's thinking that you may have or wanting to get a diagnosis, okay? Educate yourself first about adult ADHD. You can get that from multiple sources. And make sure they're relevant and accurate sources. So the one would be CADAC, the Center of ADHD Awareness Canada website, which is caddac.ca, or CHAD, which is the American version of CADAC, which is the Children and Adults with Attention Deficit and Hyperactivity Disorder, and that's CHADD.org. They have a lot of great resources for understanding ADHD and how to observe it. So having that said, now it's time to observe your symptoms: inattention, impulsivity, hyperactivity, and emotional dysregulation. Now sit and observe your symptoms, the situations, the environment, the conditions, the scenarios. Look back in your past. Look back to now. What are you currently having challenges with? Okay. Now, the other part of the process for diagnosis is the psychiatrist or whoever the medical professional is involved in this will be wanting to talk to loved ones, family, friends, spouse, children even, so that they can observe and learn about the patterns that reflect adult ADHD. So in my case, my wife was with me for 3 of the interviews with the psychiatrist, and he asked her a lot of specific type of questions. In this scenario, in that scenario, what was his reaction? Da, da, da. Some of it was not really cool to hear, but a lot of the stuff was positive and was required. So ADHD is not something you get a blood test for or you get a brain scan. It has a lot to do with a subjective, objective view of the past and scenarios that can demonstrate a chronic situation of symptoms. So chronic, consistent, always there. It doesn't go away depending on scenario, that it's always there. Okay. The other thing too you can do is you can talk to other people that you trust fully about your symptoms and that they can give you an objective observation of past behaviors. I did that with one friend. Well, I was starting to get into this process. I said, hey, in university, what did you observe? This, that. And it was like, she didn't quite understand it was ADHD, but the story she was telling me was definitely confirming the ADHD symptoms and tendencies were definitely there. And you can get a lot of insight as well from that. So to follow the ADHD simplified model, take a look at your executive functioning abilities right now. Are you able to plan? What is your working memory? Like, to me, the working memory things, that explains why I have a logbook. That's why everything's written down. I just inherently knew I could not remember stuff. And to remember stuff, I would forget, or I'd waste a lot of time. That stuff just repeating in my head. So I just start writing stuff down. So my working memory is crap. I'm not apologizing for anymore. And there's not much more I can do to improve that memory. Planning, goal setting, organizing yourself. How do you organize a day? Like for me, things have to be laid out and written down for me to execute it properly. That's the structure. But to me, to show up and say, well, what I'm going to do today, well, I can't process that kind of stuff in my head. Then all of a sudden, the pressure and the urgency of last minute stuff comes up. Observe your time blindness. Figure out what your time horizon is. Also observe where you have challenges with inhibition, your impulsivity, your hyperactivity. What environment, what condition, situation makes it worse, makes it better. And lastly, I got 2 books I would highly recommend you take a look at, and I'll put these in the show notes. The one is that really made a big difference for me. It's not written as a negative. It's just written as plain facts. It's called You Mean I'm Not Lazy, Stupid, or Crazy? The classic self-help book for adults with ADHD. It's written by Kate Kelly and Peggy Ramundo. That was actually recommended to me by my psychiatrist as part of the process. And Peter Shankman's Faster Than Normal. Turbocharge your focus, productivity, and success with the secrets of the ADHD brain. And this is one of the first books that was written as this is a strength. It's not a negative. So that's where I'd say you guys start. Let me know how your process and your journey is going. Email me at andre@tacticalbts.com. I would love to hear from you in your journey and see what I can do to help.
The ADHD transformation program has launched and it's working. Clients are saying it's changed their lives and I am their ADHD hack. So go to tacticalbts.com/ATJP for more information. I want you to join and learn your own ADHD vocabulary and to learn that you're not stupid and we can make you work effectively.
Thank you for listening to the Impulsive Thinker podcast. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion for the show, please visit theimpulsivethinker.com. The Impulsive Thinker podcast is produced by Tactical Breakthroughs and hosted by Andre Brisson. Remember, ADHD is only a part of you, not all of you.